Welcome to the Inspire and Learn series. We are the Multihull Group, a multi-award-winning dealership in Australia, specialising in catamarans. Join us as our expert team teach you all about anchoring, docking, rigging, sail trim, maintenance, and so much more, so you can build confidence in your catamaran handling ability. In this episode, we are joined by a rigging specialist to demonstrate the things to look out for during regular rig and hardware inspections on your catamaran. Enjoy.
Today we're very lucky to be joined by Dion Hart from Pacific Rigging, based on Sydney Harbour. Dion's a veteran of the industry and a rigger that we trust and use. When would you do that first?
Well, the initial stretch will happen fairly quickly after not that much sailing. You'd need to obviously be sailing in moderate conditions, and I'd be recommending, after the boat's been first handed over after the commissioning process, that you'd be looking at after either your first passage, if you are doing the delivery from overseas, or if it's a locally delivered boat, I'd be looking at getting the rigger to come back and have a look at the boat after maybe 5 or 6 sails in moderate conditions.
Excellent. Okay, great.
But then once that's been done, then you're okay for, I would be recommending probably every 12 months that someone has a professional has a look at it. But as we're going to show you pretty shortly when we do go up the mast, that there's a lot of things that the owner themselves can have a look at. We'll run you through going up the mast safely. And I would also encourage people to go up their mast. It can be a bit of a nerving thing to do, but done safely, then very, very little can go wrong, and we'll run you through that when we get on board the boat. That said, I'd also recommend that you go up your mast on the marina in nice calm conditions, get used to it, so that if there is ever a need to do it at sea, at least you've got a little bit more confidence having practiced it in the shelter of your marina pen.
Fantastic. Okay, well, let's get out there onto a real lagoon and
let's do it.
Go through all the different components.
Okay, bye-bye little lagoon. Alright, we're on board the boat now, and we're going to do the deck rig inspection. Basically with this, we just start at the front of the boat and work our way back, looking at every component to do with the rig. Now, you don't need to be a rigger to be able to do a good job doing a rig inspection. You're basically just looking for anything that doesn't look the way that it should. Cracking anywhere, tensions, and fittings and fastenings to make sure that they're secure. So we'll start here with the forestay. This here is the clevis pin that connects the stay to the forebeam, and we are making sure that that's in correctly, and that the split pin that's connecting it and holding that pin in position is in and turned to make sure that that pin doesn't come out. Again, we just work our way up. We have a look to make sure that this bolt here, which is connecting the forestay to the toggle, is connected correctly. We then get to our furler. Now, the breeze is up a little bit here today, but we would pull the jib in and out a few times to make sure that the operation of the furler is correct. But because there's a little bit of breeze and it's coming from the side of the boat, we're just going to pull the furler out a little bit to make sure that it's actually operating the way that it should. Of which we can see that this one is doing a good job. You'll also notice here where the tack of the sail's connected, someone has put a cable tie through the shackle, because this particular shackle has a hole in it, so that enables you to be able to put a cable tie through there to make sure that that shackle doesn't vibrate or undo itself. The majority of the lagoons, if not I think all of them, have this brand of furler, which is called a Facnor furler. They are a very good brand of furler. Very little ever goes wrong with them. They have self-contained bearings inside there, so there's no maintenance that is required, other than obviously just the visual inspection to make sure that they're operating correctly. This one fastening just here is quite a crucial one to check, because this fitting here is what connects the drum to the foils, which makes the whole thing spin. So just make sure that that's in. If you have a set of Allen keys, it's often not a bad idea just to give it a little nudge to make sure that it's tight. So we've seen that that's all operating. Don't forget to fill your sail back up again, like so, and make that fast back in the cockpit. Now whilst we're up here, if we have a look up to where the jib sheet goes through, make sure that when you furl your sail up that there's not a little triangle. You try and get your sail furled up as much as you possibly can, because if for some reason the furling line's not made off or someone accidentally undoes it when you get off board the boat, a little bit of sail hanging out there, and if a breeze comes through, it will make the furler undo. So from there, we're going to check our cross beam. This wire here is taking the reverse load of the forestay, which is trying to pull up, and this is keeping the forebeam straight. So again, we have on down here, which is called a turnbuckle, which is an adjustable mechanism which makes the wire tight. So we make sure that all of that is all as it should be. Also, it is pinned off. There's a pin here and a pin there, which stops this undoing. So that's also very important. We'll also talk about wires and the like when we get further down the back of the boat. So we're checking to make sure the forebeam and all the fastenings that hold the forebeam to the hull are all in good order, and that the bracket there is all good. This particular boat's fitted with a prodder for its code 0 or its asymmetrical sails. So we get out as far out as we can and check all our connections. Again, checking our pins. Having a look at the fulcrum point here, which is held on with rivets onto the crossbeam, and making sure that all that's safe. We give it all a big jiggle around to make sure that there's no movement or excess play in there. This one's all good. Okay, so up the bow here, everything's looking as it should be. As you see, there's not that much you need to look at. Very quick visual inspection, and that will put your mind at rest that everything's as it should be. Okay, we're going to work our way down the side of the boat and check where the stays connect. There are 3 main stays that are holding this mast up, the forestay and the 2 side stays. Okay, we're coming down the side of the boat down towards where the cap shrouds connect, and here we have another turnbuckle. You can see the tensions on these, which are holding, this is actually holding the mast up and back. We make sure that there's quite adequate tension there. Most of the Lagoons have got this plastic casing over here. This is where we lift this casing up and we inspect very closely where the wires enter the swage. Now these swages just here, when we actually make these, we just push the wire inside. We have a big press that puts them under tons and tons of pressure, and that's what holds it in there. When a swage or a wire fails, 90% of the time it's going to fail where it enters the swage. These wires are made up of 19 individual small strands, and a wire will normally break 1 strand or 2 strands at a time. It won't just all of a sudden implode. So we very closely examine all the way around there to make sure that there's no cracks or anything on the strands of the wires. Okay, again, working our way down now. We're looking for any cracking or anything that doesn't look right on the swages. You'll notice underneath this tape here as well, there are split pins which are going to stop, same as on the forebeam, which are going to stop these vibrating and undoing. So we make sure that they're all in and turned, and again our split pins that are retaining our clevis pins are all correct as well. If you're in a position where we are alongside the boat, at this stage I would hop off the boat and inspect the chain plate. The chain plate is this plate here, which is connected to the hull, which has the stays connect to it, and in effect is holding the mast up. So again, we're looking for any movement or cracking in the chain plate. We have a look at our self tacker, ensure that the car is moving freely. Now at this point, it's got to be made note that it's incredibly important that you get fresh water on your boat and on your fittings as often as you possibly can. So after a good day's sail, if you're lucky enough to be on a marina, get the hose so long as there's no water restrictions, and give all the fittings a very good flushing. That'll make sure that the ball bearings inside a car like this will continue to run freely and operate the way that it's meant to. We're now at the base of the mast. Just about all catamaran masts are what we call deck stepped, whereby the mast sits on top of the deck. So here is this part of the mast is called the mast step, and the mast actually sits inside this here, about this far. Not all boats have got them, this particular one does. This is called a mast tie down, so this is securing the mast to the collar. Again, not all models of Lagoons have got that. These here obviously are the electrics that are going into the rig, so just checking to make sure that there's no chafe where if a halyard or a rope had been run past, may have chafed through these, which will obviously mean that your lights won't be operating correctly. On this side of the rig we have all of the pulleys that send the halyards, the reefing lines, the main sheet, and these all the control lines for the boat back into the pit, which is where the clutches and the winches are. So we check to make sure again, and as you can see, this particular boat has seized off all its shackles, which is a good practice if you have a hole in them. We ensure that all the fittings that secure these are all tight. We turn all the sheaves to make sure that they're all spinning. Again, these have eraser ball bearings in there. Ball bearings love fresh water. These 3 wires here are part of the diamond configuration. They put bend into the mast. Now the mast, if you look up it from here up to the top, you'll notice it's bending like that, and that's been put in by these wires here. We tension these wires when the mast is lying on the deck before we put them in, and the manufacturers also give us an indication of how much pre-bend they require in the mast. Generally, the mast, that's the core of the mast, we will put approximately 50% of the core of the mast as pre-bend into the rig. So with the diamond, checking the connection to the mast, checking split pins, and also checking our strands of wires at that point. An important part of the whole mast and boom configuration is this area here, which is called the gooseneck, which attaches the boom to the mast. It's held on with a series of pop rivets. Some boats have mechanical fastenings. Again, inspection to make sure there's no movement there. Good practice as well when you are out sailing is to come and have a look at this, because when the boom is moving, you may see movement in here. Checking for pins. Inside here we have sheaves or pulleys. We are ensuring that they all spin correctly. Okay, we're at the back of the boom now, back where the main sheet and the main traveller is acting. A thing that I didn't mention earlier about, which is another difference between monohulls and multi-hull rigs, is that you don't tend to see a boom vang on board a catamaran. The flattening of the mainsail is achieved via the traveller and via main sheet tension. So again, back here, checking movement and operation of the car and all the pulleys. We carefully come to the back of the boom and checking that our sheaves or pulleys here are all turning and not cracked. They're made out of injection molded plastic and they do last for a long time, but as you just saw, they're exposed to UV and to sun, so over time they do get a little bit prone to deterioration. So if you do have a crack in one, it's not the end of the world. It just means that over a long passage it may put some damage on the rope. So checking all our sheaves. Right here is our main sheet connection, which on the Lagoons, majority of them have these neat soft strops that wrap around the boom and connect the pulley to the boom. Okay, we're in the pit of the yacht, which have all the control lines coming from the mast, back through clutches, and back to 2 nice Harken electric winches. So again, as mentioned earlier, fresh water on all of this is imperative. Our winches, like anything mechanical, they too need to be maintained and serviced. This can be done professionally, obviously, but is also a reasonably straightforward thing to do if you are slightly mechanically minded. There are instruction manuals and drawings of all these winches online, so you can pick your model, your brand and your model number, and a drawing will come up. They require servicing probably every 12 months, just a light greasing and a light oiling. Either get professionally done, or if you're at anchor, nothing much more to do, have a go at one of them yourself. Okay, I'm about to go up the mast. We're going to be using the main halyard, and again on the Lagoons, majority of the main halyards are 2 to 1. It's very important when you're sending someone aloft is to use 2 halyards if you have got them. One as a primary halyard and one as a safety in case something goes wrong. So you notice I've loaded the winch. This particular boat, the We've got electric winches, 2 speeds. Depending on how confident you are, I recommend going up on low speed, nice and slowly, so you feel nice and comfortable and you can have a good look around at the same time. When you're hoisting somebody up the mast on a lagoon, ensure that the clutch is closed and that the halyard is wrapped around 3 or 4 times and then securely and snugly fitted into the self-tailer. When we go up the mast, I like to look up and watch the person as they go, because electric winches do make a little bit of noise, and as you know as well, we are also enclosed in this in the cockpit here, so sometimes you can't hear them, and if something goes wrong or if they want to stop or they want to have a look at something, you can't hear. So if you're in a position where you're manning the winch and you can watch them, the person aloft can use hand signals of stop or stop if they want to stop. The complete opposite happens when the person's coming down the mast. Once I'm ready to come back down again, we have the rope still in the in the self-tailer. The clutch is opened, and the person in the pit here will take it out of the self-tailer. From this stage now, you have the weight of the person in your hands. Basically, you have their life in your hands. So, nice good grip. These winches have got very good grip on them. So you probably have to take a couple of turns off the winch, and then you start handing and easing them down the mast. At this stage, do not look up the mast at them. It's much more important that you concentrate on your job, which is making sure that this rope here continues to come down and does not try to jump off the mast. So don't look up. Look up when you're hoisting. Look down when you're lowering. Okay, we're about to do the mast inspection now. We normally start by going to the top of the mast first and working our way down. So we'll make our way up to the top of the rig. Okay, before we've left the deck, we're now at the top of the mast. We have turned on all the lights on board the mast to make sure that they're operable. So pretty much with our inspection up here, we just have a very, very close, thorough visual inspection of all the attachments and everything that we have on the mast. So at the masthead, we check our wind instruments and our lights, 1 that they're operable and 2 that they are secure and not about to fall off. From there we check the sheaves. The sheaves are the pulleys in the mast where the halyards run over, and we make sure that they're running smoothly and freely and that there's no that said, they are self-servicing. They don't need to be sprayed with anything or lubricated. Lubrication of those can actually be detrimental as they build up salt and grime and actually stop them turning. So that's just a physical case of putting your finger into the sheave and giving it a spin. So from there, we've done the masthead. We work our way down to where the stays connect to the top of the mast. Now these, as I mentioned earlier, are in a triangle effect, so this is the most important thing to be inspecting at the top of the mast. So that's where the stays connect to the mast and where the forestay connects. At this point as well, we check the operation of the furler. So the person on the deck will unfurl and furl the sail, so we can inspect a couple of very important things on the furler, which is the top swivel and also the setup of the halyard. Now we're at the top of the furler. This is probably the most critical part of the inspection that we do up the mast. It's very, very important that the sail is the correct luff length. And this means that the sail, when it's fully hoisted, the top swivel on the furler is very, very close to where it enters, the halyard enters the mast. If there's too much halyard tension, then you run the risk of what we call a halyard wrap, whereby when you furl your sail, the halyard will attempt to wrap itself around the forestay, which can lead to some very, very bad things. What can happen is that it can actually unwind the forestay, and the forestay then loses all its strength and can break, which results obviously in the mast falling down. That is the worst case scenario. The other scenario is that it gets wrapped around so much that you cannot furl, unfurl or drop the sail. So if that happens, you will need to send someone aloft to figure out what's going on and fix the problem at sea, which obviously is not the best outcome. So as you can see on this boat, the halyard is turning correctly. There is very limited amount of halyard between the swivel and the sheave where it enters the mast, So we consider this to be well set up. What you also have to be very conscious of, if you are not using factory fitted sails, some people get smaller jibs for obviously for heavier air, and a smaller jib often has a shorter luff. So it's very important that every sail that you have for your headsail, for your furling unit, is checked for the correct fit. Another very important thing is the halyard must be under tension when you're furling and unfurling it. If it's not, again, then you run the risk of it wrapping around and causing major problems. So we've had a look at what we call the hounds, which is where the forestay and the side stays connect. Now we work our way down to the diamonds. Now the diamonds also connect to tangs which are welded to the mast. At these tangs, like up on the hounds, we check for any cracking on the weld, any discoloration in the anodizing, which will show that there's been excess force applied to it. And all these fittings where the stainless steel wires connect have all got what we call a clevis pin, which is a big pin which goes through a hole in the tang which is welded to the mast, and they're secured with a split pin. Now we obviously check to make sure that the split pin is in place and it is turned correctly. That split pin should be turned at approximately 35 degrees. Some people tend to turn them all the way around, which is a guaranteed way that it's not going to come out, but it does put a weak point in the split pin at that point. So we're checking for all these pins to make sure that they are correctly turned. We then work our way down to the diamond setup on the mast, which is in effect basically a set of spreaders with a forward prodder on it as well. At this point we check the connection of these as well. These are held in place. There is a bar that goes through the mast, and these spreaders slip over the bar and held in place with some bolts. So again, checking that those bolts are all tight. We then look at the outboard end of the spreaders, or diamonds as we call them on the catamaran, which is where the wires pass through the diamond and then continue down to the fixing point further down the mast. So we make sure again that everything's seated correctly there. Obviously we're looking for any excess corrosion or basically anything that just looks out of the norm. So we work our way down from there. Again, we're checking our lights as we go. We have steaming lights. A lot of boats will have a radar mounted around this position as well. So again, just checking for security. We give everything a good shake and a wobble while we're up there. Make sure that it's all bedded correctly and that there's not any excess movement or vibration.
Thanks, Dion. That's been great. Really good to have you. Hope you've been enjoying the Inspire and Learn series from TMG. Please do have a look at the YouTube link, like and subscribe, and you'll be kept up to date on all the next episodes as they come out. Thank you. Thanks, Dion.
Thanks, John.
Join us next time when Dion Hart gives us the inside scoop into the rigging process during the commissioning of your catamaran, how the mast arrives, the assembling and the stepping. We'll see you then.